The illustrious Jabba bids you welcome. I'm going to regret this.
I'm Pete Mitchell. He's Peyton Jones. And this is the Church Planter Podcast, brought to you by Church Planter Magazine.
Golly gosh, hey, Church Planter.
Well, hi there. Who's this?
It's a car cast.
It's a car cast. Woo!
So
I've not had a car cast forever.
Is this going to be like a 2-minute podcast, or is it, what are we doing?
Well, I think it's going to be about a 30-minute podcast.
Because let me guess.
I figure
your drive's about 30 minutes?
Yeah, pretty much. And I've been up since 4 a.m. and out on the road since about 4:40 a.m. So Joey's not too great for things today, but I've been talking all day, so I'm still ready to talk. But when I get home, I'm pretty sure I'm going to collapse.
Well, I don't know if that's good or bad. But, you know, since this is the afternoon and it's spur of the moment.
We're going to kill it.
I got nothing, man. I got nothing prepared.
I feel it.
I'm just.
Yeah. I can feel this though. I can feel this is a good thing. What I want to do.
Hey, what'd you think of that birthday card I got Jamie?
I was wondering who got who that card.
Dude, you know, if it was the other way around, I'd be like, yes.
Well, you were pretty excited when you sent it to me.
Dude, I thought it was hilarious. I can't share with everyone listening to the podcast what the card said.
No,
it was perfect.
What was her reaction? Reaction to it?
I haven't given it to her yet.
I loved the note that said, "Who said the perfect card didn't exist?"
Me. I'm like, that's like the perfect birthday card ever.
Oh my gosh, that was funny as heck.
Oh,
so I figured, Pete, and if I cut out for a second, don't anyone panic. Don't touch that dial. It's because I'm in California driving, and we just cut out sometimes. That's just what happens. But I figured, Pete, it would be really good for us to address our audience and pretty much tell them, hey, we're not going to be around for a couple weeks because I am going to be in Atlanta next week, and you are going to be tormenting children at a summer camp.
Woo!
So let's just kind of catch up. I mean, basically, we're going to be off for a few weeks, and maybe it's good to just kind of prep everybody for that. You're gonna have to get through life without us for a little bit, Church Planter.
I don't know that that's possible.
I know. You bring someone close to you, hold their hand, and repeat after me. I can get through this with the Lord's help.
There's no place like home.
With the Lord's help.
There's no place like home.
Yeah, I should have told them to click their heels together. There's no podcast like the Church Planter Podcast. There's no podcast like the Church Planter Podcast. See, we're going to do great today, Pete.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to Friday. Friday's the big day. I think I talked about this on the last podcast that we did, but it still hasn't happened yet.
What's happening on Friday?
I get my tattoo, the first of many.
Woo! Nice. You did talk about this, and
I'm getting a full sleeve. A full sleeve.
You liar. That would be rad, though, to write that in letters that wrap around your whole arm. How
full sleeve. Get the words full sleeve, wrap it around my arm. Look, I got a full sleeve.
Yeah.
I like it.
Do generic, like, and with the, I used to get like generic brand things. You guys remember when Public Image Limited came out with the no name brand album cover, and it just said album, and it had that like baby blue and white label?
Right.
Did I lose you?
No. Well, sometimes you do. Sometimes you fade in and out.
Yeah. All right. Well, so that's cool. So where's it going?
It's going on my forehead.
Nice. So that it's like your phylactery.
No, I'm getting it on my forearm, the inside of my forearm.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward.
So we could be like Wonder Twin Powers and touch our tattoos together.
No,
Wonder
I'm not.
Twin Powers activate.
My tattoo is not touching your tattoo. That's all I'm saying. I'm not.
Why? We could be tattoo buddies.
That's just.
Don't make it weird. It's natural. It's
sounds gross. It sounds gross.
Well, no. Okay, so like when your tattoo's all scabby and nasty, no, I won't touch it. But afterwards, we could touch our tattoos together and see if magical things happen.
Did it actually hurt when you got yours? Because I'm getting mine in the same place you got yours.
No, they don't. It doesn't hurt.
I didn't think so. It doesn't look like it would.
No, it doesn't hurt. Anyone that tells you it hurts. Now, I have heard certain parts of the body, not where you think, but like, where was it? My brother, I think he said his rib cage hurt. And it's just that the skin is sensitive in that one area. It's almost like certain parts of your body are more ticklish than others. But no, I don't. It doesn't hurt. I mean, it's not super comfortable, but I think when you're doing it, you're just excited you're getting one. So it's fun, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch a guy do it.
Is your brother taller than you?
About an inch.
Oh, okay, so it's just not a tall family.
Yeah, he has all the cool stuff. Like I got the leftovers when God made me and my brother. He got like the extra inch of height, and he got black hair, and I got like dark brown hair and 1 inch shorter. So I've always been a little jealous. He's also smarter than me and tougher and stronger than me. So it's like I'm the Terminator T-2000,
but see,
and he's like the really cool liquid metal one.
I got to say that I'm not really surprised that he's smarter, better looking. I don't think it takes much, really, and stronger. I don't think it takes much to beat you in those categories.
It's like the $6 million man, faster, stronger, better.
Dude,
like that old opening to that TV show.
At $6 million, they should have bought like 1,000 of them. That was such a steal.
No kidding, right?
Yeah.
Well, back then they're like $6 million man. Back then, like they technology was not at the place. It was like there wasn't much of it, so they couldn't even put a cassette deck in that guy because that wasn't invented yet. Like that would have added another $2 million on.
Did you ever see Iron Eagle? Of course, you saw Iron Eagle back in the day.
Of course.
Remember how he would always
and the kid that looked like me.
Remember how he would always put in his cassette and then he could like go kick butt in the air when he's like playing his tunes. Dude, that's what the $6 million man needed. He needed to have his own little cassette, and like as soon as he put that in, he could run fast, he could fight. That'd be
techno music playing as he's kicking butt. That'd be rad.
Dude, I remember as a kid, we'd always walk really slow and be like, yeah, I'm going so fast. Because you're just walking slow because the whole show was in slow-mo when he was running really fast.
Oh, yeah. He go, so I think it was a Bionic Woman where it shows her squeeze a tennis ball at the beginning. Yeah. Like that was her thing.
Yeah.
She could squeeze a tennis ball. And in the 70s, as cheesy as that sounds, we're all like, whoa. She pops the tennis ball with her bare hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember it well.
They were innocent times. Yeah.
I remember it well.
So, yeah, man. So, I'm like the left of my brother's like the $6 million man. But hey, you guys didn't come to hear about my brother. You came here to hear about Pete. So Pete, you called me with some news. I'm not at liberty to share my news. It's not my news and I can't share it, but I'll share generally about what's been happening, but I'll let you share yours first so I can steal your thunder and share my news.
I don't have any news. What are you talking about?
Dude, number 6, victory. Come on.
Oh, yeah, dude, that was crazy. What was funny? Okay, so I got my 6th.
Well, tell them what it is.
6th victory on Fortnite for a solo match. And I literally did not kill a single person until the very last guy. It was down to him and me.
It's so unfair.
I know, right? It's down to him and me.
And he was already like down to partial health because he had just
he was a pro. Like all of a sudden I show up and he starts doing the builds, right? And like those guys who can like build and then they're jumping all around on their build and then they're like, they get all the good spots and they shoot and kill you. Well, and I'm down to like 28 health. So I run under his build because it was on the side of a mountain and he like doesn't come after me. So I take a med kit, get back up to 100, pull out the shotgun, and he like misses me and he's right in front of me. And it's just like a perfect headshot. And I take him out. And it was so unfair. It was so unfair.
And there was much weeping and gnashing of teeth. Can you imagine being in his house at that moment? No!
Dude, he probably had like 16 kills, and then this guy shows up with no kills and then takes him out.
Yeah, your guy can't even build a structure. Like, what you doing there, friend?
Yeah, I can't.
You're all jumping around. Yeah, it's tough.
But dude, you haven't played the new season of Fortnite because it just came out yesterday.
No,
it's all alien based.
I've not been playing video games. They came out with World of Warcraft Classic, Burning Crusade, which if I were going to play something right now, I'd play that. But the problem is my house is like a tip. Like, it's British speak for disaster zone. Tip means like a garbage dump. I'm unpacking books and trying to get my office put together, and it is a butt ton of work. And I'm on these crazy film shoots for Through the Word and Zondervan, and so it's like I'm just busy, man. So I'm like having to squeeze it in at weird times. Like I'll go home right now, and I said I'll collapse. I probably won't. I'll probably go and like try to get stuff put away, miserably fail, rethink my life, and curl up in a ball because it's just never ending. But yeah, so that's cool, dude. Yeah, I want to play it, but I did hear someone hate on it today that I was filming with. They said, no, maybe like you get sucked up in the air in a spaceship and then you can shoot people from above. And he's been picked off a couple times. He was not having it.
Yeah. It's true. You can fly a UFO and you can shoot people from the UFO. Or when you play duos, Luke drives the UFO and he picks me up and starts carrying me. And then I start shooting people on the ground. So, whatever.
Watching you and Luke play would be hilarious. I would love to see that.
Dude, yeah, we definitely both look forward to it. It's fun.
Oh, that's fantastic. Man.
I'm much better when I play by myself, but it's fun playing with Luke.
Do you find yourself acting inappropriately? Like, because that's got to be hard, right? Like these little kids like cussing you out and stuff, and like
no, because I know I'm not that good, but like we played a duo match. It was our last game of season 6, so it was Tuesday night. And we're like, look, it's almost time for bed. We're going to play one last duo game. And I usually have a strategy for how I don't get killed, right? And like, he's like, we're going to land here. And I'm like, oh, all right. It's too close to the flight path. I'm not kidding. We must have had like 4 to 5 kills each within the first 10 minutes because it was just everyone was there. And we're just like, it was a kill fest. We were killing everybody. And it was down to like 4 or 5 people, and we got taken out. But it was one of the best matches ever that we had because we were both just on fire.
What made it good?
We were both just on fire. We were both on fire, just killing everybody.
So does Luke? Is he really verbal? Like when he's winning, he's like, yeah.
Dude,
jumping around and
around
and shouting. And
he's so loud. Like, okay, so his friend Thanasi. Is like we play with his friend Thanasi all the time. We'll play trios. His friend Thanasi is the best, like out of the 3 of us, like it's not even close. And all of a sudden, like you hear Thanasi and Luke yelling really loud. And so Thanasi's mom, her name is Sophia, and she and Jamie are texting. And Jamie like texts her, well, at least they all seem to play nice together. And then Sophia goes, yeah, I just heard Thanasi say, hey, Mr. Mitchell, can you please pass me the pump shotgun? She's like, that's not something you expect your kid to say every day. So
that's so rad. That's awesome. Yeah. Hey, can you hear me right now?
I can.
My headphone, one of them blinked out. I don't know what's going on. So
what? Yeah, no, we can hear you.
Okay, I may have to go to the old car speaker, but we'll see. So, I want to share with you guys something that's been kind of cool. Recently, I've been kind of like in a front row seat to 3 people coming either back to Jesus or to faith for the first time. So it's really cool. Like there's a guy right now who's become a really good friend, and we do models and stuff. And, the ideas that we're discipling, I don't say like, hey dude, can I disciple you? It's not how it works. We're just going to get together and do, do models. And, we joke around and call them nerd hobbies, because this dude's anything but a nerd. He's pretty cool. Some people at the church plant I go to, they picked him up at a skate park and kind of got to know him there. And he started coming to church, and he and I nerded out one morning. We're like, hey, I was saying, oh yeah, I'm working on this textbook, and I keep thinking I want to get back into this thing, World of Warcraft, or not Warhammer. I haven't done that thing for like 20 years, and I used to nerd out on it. And he's like, Dad, I would do that again. That stuff's cool. And so we kind of both are getting sucked into it at the same time. And I've never played a game. So he really wants to play the game. For me, I'm like, I just like painting these stupid things, And so it was just kind of cool, like being a part of his journey. And just, I'm not at liberty to say like some of the cool stuff, but like last night just was a Holy Spirit moment. And all around me right now, I'm just conscious that things are really starting to catalyze and pop a bit. And I just want to check, you still there, right?
Yep.
Okay. And but anyways, my plumber, who, I was in the high school group with him when I was a kid, and we were all coming to faith. And he was like a drummer in a punk band and stuff, came from a really bad home, like really probably the most broken home of any of the kids I hung with. And years ago, when the pastor that was our pastor back then had a moral failure, he and a bunch of my friends took off like, yeah, this is a bunch of bull crap. We're out of here. And so recently I saw him on Facebook. Anyways, he came back to the faith partially through his sister. He said his sister invited him to church right about the time I reached out to him. And he went with her because she was recovering off of like decades of drugs, but she had come to faith. And he was like, I used to tell her about Jesus all the time. Anyways, so he comes to work at my house and we start talking. And the other night he tells me, he goes, you're part of the reason I've come back to God recently. And I go, really? Like, I don't really think I have much to do with that. And he goes, no, man. He goes, it really impacted me that after all these years, you're still walking with God. And that had a massive impact on me. And when we started talking, and you were just as solid as you've ever been, with Jesus. He's like, it just really stood out to me. Like, he's real in Peyton's life. And it was just kind of cool, man. Cause I was like, like what's weird is there's all this unconscious kind of ministry going on. And then there was one other person, which I won't mention, who recently, again, whether they came to faith for the first time or coming back to God, to them, they feel that it is coming to faith for the first time. But somebody I've been talking with for a long time just recently came to faith. And I'm just kind of like, all right, Lord, what's going on? Like, this is a lot all at once. Like, what's happening, And again, it's starting to feel for me a little bit like, how like I've talked before, like the apostolic gifting, where it's unconscious and it kind of operates around you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You there?
Yep.
That's what it feels like to me right now. And of course, those of you that know, I'm getting ready to go back into some pretty big stuff, into some ministry in a big way. So it's not on accident, I don't think, that these things are happening, but I'm starting to sense that catalytic apostolic thing churning around me right now. And that's where, like Paul says, according to the power that works within me. And then he says, I, Paul, yet not I, but Christ in me. There's all these scriptures where Paul will describe that this is not me, same with Jesus, where he's like, who touched me? I felt the power go out of me. Right now, I can't take any credit for this stuff, is what I'm trying to say. I don't think I'm the main player in all these, but I'm definitely a part of them. But it's not, I can't say I did that, and which is good. You should never say that. But I guess what I'm saying is there's definitely a sense in which I've just had this rad front row seat recently to all these people, God just dealing with people. And I'm kind of blown away, to be honest.
That's awesome. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been cool, man. It's been really cool. So that's been my stuff.
Well, I have nothing. I don't know what you want me to say. You called me and said, hey, let's do the podcast. I'm like, I'm unprepared. I always spend 3 hours prepping for our podcast, and I got no time.
3 hours prepping for the podcast. That's so funny. We're the Seinfeld of podcasts. The show about everything, the show about nothing.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
Pretty much. I love how it's usually about 10 seconds before we start. By the way, what's today's topic? Oh, here's what we're going to talk about. Great. Sounds good. I'll just sit back when you finally get to the subject.
It usually changes midway through.
Yeah, because I usually end up bringing up something that takes over.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we never recover that original idea.
Yeah. That's the way it goes.
Keep a list. Like, this is the schedule. But I did want to say Don Stoner would very much like to start coming on to the podcast and do a mini series with us on how to speak with skeptics and how, science and the faith. I mean, this is a crazy scientist. So he's ready to go. We want to start hitting at the end of June, beginning of July. He's like, yeah, sign me up. I'll come running.
You mean we could do like a season, like how other podcasts break their podcasts up into seasons, and we've only been doing episodes?
We could do a 3-part series, my friend.
Gee, that doesn't sound like a pastor.
Would that be great, though? Have Don Stoner on?
Oh, it'd be great to have Don Stoner. You know how I feel about series, though.
Yeah, I know. But think of it as one conversation with 3 distinct parts, Pete.
Did you ask him? Did you ask him if he was a theistic evolution?
No, I did not.
Because he is.
I should ask that.
He's a theistic evolution, totally.
Well, I think, you know what? The more that you say that now, I'm thinking, I know he believes in. Okay, so this is what I think he may believe in. Is that there was animal death before the fall, but not human death. That I remember.
I don't know. I haven't had that conversation with them, but and like I said before on our podcast when we did talk about him and science and all that stuff, probably a couple of years ago now. I don't have a problem with theistic evolution. Like that's the only type of evolution that even makes any sense to me. Yeah, I don't have a problem with anything that wherever someone tries to shake science out, if they're trusting the Bible, they're trusting the scripture, they're trusting, they're going, hey, I believe the Bible, like I believe, but what if someone is distrusting their interpretation of the Bible? So right. For example, like Archbishop Usher years ago said the world was 6,000 years old, and people
for a time, were saying things like, well, if you don't believe that, you're just a heretic. And then people came along and said, no, wait a second, because then other people, oh, no, there's an error. It's 10,000 years. And then, to me, when it gets into all that, you start going, no, it has to be my interpretation of what the scripture is saying, or you're a heretic. That's where I have a problem.
Right.
If someone says, no, I don't believe, I think the Bible's a bunch of bunk where it's talking about creation, yada, yada, then I got a problem. And Don's definitely not there. Don's like, hey, well, have you considered this? Now, I did not know. And I remember you saying that. And I'm like, I don't think so. And so for me, I don't think so. I could be totally wrong.
I was able to use his arguments with my buddy and help lead him to Christ, because I could show how you could believe in evolution and believe in God at the same time, and being theistic evolution. And so, I mean, to me, because it's like, did God create some sort of evolution, not on its own, right, but literally theistic evolution where God was in every step of the development? Or did God just all of a sudden create everything? Or, it's like, I don't know. I wasn't there.
Yeah, who cares?
Exactly. I don't really care either, right? We'll find out one day, because it'll be cool as like a history lesson, our history. But at the end of the day, I don't really care.
God will probably be like, hey, here's what I did. None of you big heads figured it out.
That's what I think's going to happen. Yeah, totally.
But it was cute listening to all your little theories.
Right, exactly.
And, but and then, boy, won't we all be surprised. What happened next? No one could have saw. Heaven's clickbait.
Well, one thing we're sure on is that God didn't create the COVID. That was created in a lab in Wuhan. Oh, wait, sorry. Wrong podcast. Wrong podcast.
Yeah. That's your conspiracy theory podcast.
That is.
We haven't talked about the Nephilim. To quote Chris Lehman, the guy that I do Through the Word with.
You can't talk about the Nephilim in the evangelical world, in the Protestant world. Are you crazy? Those verses don't mean what you think they mean.
Oh, it's so funny. So the Nephilim, so I work for Through the Word app, and Chris is great, because we were just having this. Chris is a scientist. He's engineer, and he did a ton of science, and he goes, look. He goes, there's this pitting of science against religion. That's just not cool. Like, he's like, look, and you and I have talked about this, that at the end of the day, like, I've told people 100%, because I when I left the church I planted in the UK, one of the guys, it goes, I'm an atheist. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're an atheist. This is like years later. One of the kids that had come to faith there, he's like, well, I don't believe in literal six-day creationism anymore, so I'm an atheist. Like, what are you? And I guess some pastor had told him that he could not be a Christian if he did not hold to this guy's interpretation of the Bible. And it was like, I said, do you believe God created the world? And he goes, yes. I just think he used evolution. Now, just to be clear, I'm not there. That is not my view at all. But
right. Well, and that's my point too. Like, I don't run to, like, evolution isn't my go-to, but I don't have a problem with theistic evolution, and I especially don't have a problem using that to help convince people of Christ. So it's like, all right, whatever it takes.
Here's the thing. I told him, and we've said this before. I said, wait a second. So what you're telling me is that's what, like, you believe God created the world. You just think he might have done it differently than what you've been told by a Bible teacher. And he goes, yeah. And so now that makes you an atheist. And he goes, yeah. And I said, and he goes, well, I have to be, right? I said, no. You put your faith in Christ. I mean, you've trusted him, his death and resurrection for your salvation, right? He goes, yes. And I said, so let's just walk this scenario through. You've done everything the Bible says. You were walking with God. You loved God. You felt great. And all of a sudden, someone told you this. I go, now you go to heaven after placing your entire faith in Christ. And let's just walk through this scenario. let's say St. Peter's there. He's not going to be there. But let's just, for the sake of argument, you get to the gates of heaven and someone goes, whoa, pal. Whoa, 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 whoa. What's your view on evolution again?
Right.
Whoa, almost slipped by us there, pal. Wait a minute. No, you can't come in. I'm like, dude, that is not the criteria based on which you are saved. And he goes, so I can believe? I'm like, dude, you can believe that? Yes. That's not a problem. Because here's the thing I told him, I go, I don't know how God did. I just know he did it by faith. Right. I believe that God created the heavens and the earth. That is what I believe by faith. It is faith. However he did it, I don't think even science right now has a great handle on what happened. I think they're picking things up and they're trying to piece it together. But
actually, to me, that's one of the most interesting things. Like when you look at science, they are in trouble, and they have to believe in certain things, because if they don't, the next logical choice is a God. And so it's like, okay, well then I'm going, like their faith is in scientism more than it is in the science itself. It's like it's become its own religion. Yeah. Because it's like,
yeah, it really has.
If I don't believe this, then the next logical choice is a God. Like even the multi-universe theory, where there's some sort of mechanism that's kicking out universes, and it's like, okay, do you realize how? Like, let's say that's possible. It's not my go-to, but let's say it is. That means you have to have a system more fine-tuned than even our universe, because it has to be a system that can pump out our universe and the next one and the next one and the next one and an infinite number of them. I'm like, that has to take a God. Like, it's impossible that our universe just popped out, but to have a system where multiple universes that's infinitely harder than this. Like, there has to be a God if you believe in the multi-universe theory. Like, there
cannot be a God, but suddenly, as soon as you get a whisper of, yes, the government acknowledges there are these unidentified phenomenon happening, UFOs, all of a sudden, suddenly aliens, these other mystical beings put us, and then now there's not just one all-powerful God. There is a race of omnipotent, all-powerful, life-creating, life-giving beings who can defy the laws of physics. Like, all of a sudden you're like, wait, so now you believe that the laws of nature can be contradicted, because that's what we seem to observe happening in those scenarios. Now you believe that someone has the power to impart life. Okay. Something other than that. Like, all of a sudden, all that rationalistic, scientific, what do you call it? Continuationist theory just dissolves overnight. They immediately go to these other beings, not a being, but other mystical beings. They're made up, most likely. I don't doubt even that. Like, the same thing. I don't doubt the possibility of aliens. I just find it amusing how people that will lecture you about a belief in God will suddenly gravitate towards aliens.
Right. Yeah.
It's really funny. And I know we've made that point before, but when
C.S. Lewis had that great book, right? Where, ours was the one planet that didn't give glory to God. And
so good.
Yeah. I think the problem that most Christians who say there can't be any aliens, it's because they can't imagine a creature that didn't fall. It's possible that we're the example to the rest of the universe of what happens when you turn your back on God. I mean, it's possible. I don't know. I have no idea. But
that was the I was walking through Romans 1 with one of the individuals I was talking about, and we were just talking about it, that the wrath of God is being revealed against all heaven. And Paul's whole point there is the natural consequences of our actions are leading to this corruption of society. And whenever you take God out of society, that corruption just accelerates. This stupidity the lack of logic can come. It all starts. That's why Paul immediately starts talking about foolishness. Their foolish minds are darkened. That they, in their foolishness, they profess themselves to be wise, but they became fools. That's what we see happening right now as there's more and more even Christians deconstructing their faith. I really do sense right now that something of spiritual significance is taking place. We're having people suddenly publicly denounce their faith. It does seem to me like there is a falling away that is happening. I'm not being apocalyptic here or like speaking out of Revelation. What I'm saying is, in places where the rest of the world, where the gospel is growing and advancing, in our society, it is decreasing. And I just find it super fascinating that Christianity is in many ways ceasing to become a Western religion and is very much becoming a religion in the rest of the world. I just find that fascinating right now. I know we're jumping all over shop today because we don't have a topic.
You know what? What you just reminded me of was, you remember when we had Saeed's wife on the podcast, and we asked her, how did our usual question, how did you come to faith? And I remember her saying, I don't know if it was her or her brother, had a vision of Jesus. Like, they're Muslims, right? They had a vision of Jesus. And I remember thinking that, hearing that and going, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if God makes sure that everybody on the planet, whoever lives, has a chance to come to him. And, usually he's using us, but there are times when maybe he just shows up, right? But, I could just see a fair God giving everyone a shot. But here's the reason why I'm bringing that up. So I'm doing my other podcast, and Dan mentions, oh yeah, you remember that the ISIS executioner who ends up becoming a Christian. And I'm like, what? So I Google it, find the story in the New York Times, and it's a crazy story about, this jihad executioner, total just, Muslim, let's kill all the infidels. And he ends up becoming a Christian, and it was because of a vision that he had. I mean, it was a lot of things, right? But it was a vision that really pushed him over the edge. And he has no intention at all of going to the West. Because, in the article, they go, well, it's not unusual when Muslims come to Western countries that they'll become Christians just to assimilate. It's how the article put it, right? Whether or not they actually had a real conversion, it's the New York Times, right? And they're just like, oh, they assimilate. But he's like, look, I have no intention of doing that. I'm going to stay right where I am, even though I know I could be killed because I used to be the guy killing people. And I'm like, wow, dude, that is just so insanely powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, that puts faith in its context. So here, while we're screwing around over here, deconstructing our faith, feeling all big, and I'm gonna, in these other parts of the world, they're literally ready to die for this faith in Christ. And it is such a contrast, where I just find it really interesting. I love that you took it there, because that's kind of what I'm getting at, is the gospel is waxing everywhere else. Here, what we're seeing, even, and this, like even our media, like I have long felt, it was kind of like with Brexit. You listen to Brexit in the UK. It was in the UK the week that Brexit happened and that vote passed. And if you would turn on the news, you thought that nobody in their right mind, nobody possibly could believe in Brexit. According to the media, it was just these yahoos off to the side, and they won. And I even said to Andrew that night, I said, I think it's going to pass. And she goes, why? And I go, because it's like Shakespeare said, the lady doth protest too much, methinks. There's just, and it's like that in our culture right now, where our media is just all one thing. And we're not getting, I don't think, an accurate picture of where people are thinking and believing. I will tell you, this year, people started asking about God. People started thinking about him a lot in the face of their own mortality. And the media has not voiced it all. But if you watch, this is always the funny thing to me. I'll watch a TV show. I always find it funny how the main characters in all these TV shows are like anti-God. Whenever God comes up, they're anti-God. And I'm thinking, that's not accurate, because 70%, anywhere from 70 to 80% in America, people say that they believe in a God,
Right.
not like the God of the Bible or whatever. But there is at least a core belief there.
Right.
And the media acts like like 99% of the people walking around are atheists, and it's just not true.
Right.
So I don't think we're getting an accurate representation, but I would say that we are in a bigger mess than ever before. I think that the church is a mess. I think that people are losing hope. They're getting discouraged. And yet right now, all around me, I'm seeing God actually working in the lives of people. I know, like, there is a very real sense that the Spirit of God is doing something. As C.S. Lewis puts it, when the ice begins to thaw in the Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe, Beaver says Aslan's on the move.
Mm.
He begins to realize, okay, something's happening. I do think that we're in a period right now of spiritual significance. Something's happening. When I see the church kind of getting sifted a bit, and after this past year, where the foundations were and the rug was pulled out from under them, I just wonder what's happening. What's going on? The idolatry was exposed in American evangelicalism to a certain degree, where everyone was coming out prophesying a second term for Trump, and they realized, wait, a lot of these guys that have been leading us are charlatans. They promise, and then they're having to come out saying, okay, I didn't hear from the Lord. And it's like, yeah, something's drastically wrong here. And some of that stuff got exposed. And so I just wonder what's happening. People are suddenly starting to turn to discipleship groups or talking church. You have no idea how many people approach me on a weekly basis, Peyton. Like, I just had a conversation with a big church pastor yesterday who came out of Craig Rochelle and some other big names. He mentioned some of the names, I just won't mention them, but some of these big mega church movements, and they had one. And God just called them to break it up, go into these multiplying house churches. And they're going through plantology as a team. That's why he reached out. He's like, we've read everything that you've written, starting with Church Zero, and then worked through Reaching the Unreached. And that was all it. Part of that was part of their journey. And then they got hold of some other books as well, because we're going through plantology right now. We're trying to kind of rip our entire DNA inside out. And something's happening, dude. Things are happening. So
Aslan's
cool,
on the move.
Aslan's on the move, baby. That's what you're going to call this one, aren't you?
I think so. I like it.
Yeah. So, all right, brother. Well, hey, that's we will see you guys in a couple of weeks, and pray for those children that Pete will torment at summer camp.
How about pray for Pete that the kids will torment?
Yeah. Okay. That's probably true too. This is an equal opportunities tormenting session going on here. So, but yeah, all right, guys. Well, hey, thanks for joining us today. By the way, Pete, I want to ask you, what would you do if you were me and you had a website, you had a bunch of sermons and YouTube videos and podcasts, and you were like, hey, you know what? I really would like to keep people on my webpage. I don't want them to click on all these links and go off my webpage, because as a marketer, Pete, you know how important it is to keep hold of your audience, keep them where you want them. Where would you go for something like that?
It's funny you should ask, because I go to sermonboss.com.
sermonboss.com?
sermonboss.com. I have no idea what they do, but I hear about them and they do great stuff. That's what I hear.
Yes, they do great stuff, Pete. They do. So go to sermonboss.com. They will keep all of your media on your website where people can access it, and they'll help you get off the ground. That's what you want after all. You want to take people through a proper channel. Once you got them, you want to keep them, and then you want to deploy them into the action steps you want. You don't want to lose them because you've sent them to a link. So sermonboss.com. And while you're doing all that sermon bossing, Pete, how do you keep that's a hard one. That's a hard segue. How do you keep people IRS tax compliance, keep their bookkeeps?
You know,
I can't do it.
The way that I do is I go to simplifychurch.com.
Simplifychurch.com?
Simplifychurch.com.
We got two sponsors. Can you believe we got two sponsors that do stuff with us?
Can you believe they're still sponsors after our ads?
Well, one of them's still kind of new. We'll see.
The other one, like I don't think he's listened to the podcast in years and has no idea how badly we butcher his commercial.
We probably don't even need to still advertise. We do it for two reasons. One, because of integrity, because we told him we would. And two, we do it, dang it, because he's a good product. And as a bonus, let me throw out a third reason. We do it because, three, we love to butcher the ads.
That's true.
Let's be real, Pete.
That
is true. Okay, well, guys, that might be the most true thing we said today. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you in a couple weeks when we each get back from our respective vacations. And in the meantime, we want to remind you that this has been Peyton Jones and Pete Mitchell, reminding you that if you want to reach those that nobody's reaching, you need to go where nobody's going and do what nobody is doing.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly episode of the Church Planter Podcast with Pete Mitchell and Peyton Jones. We'd love to hear your comments on this episode of the Church Planter Podcast. Visit us online and let us know what you thought at churchplanterpodcast.com. If you subscribe to us via iTunes and have enjoyed the podcast, leave us a positive review. The more positive reviews we receive in iTunes, the more iTunes will promote us to other church planners who would benefit from this show. This podcast is brought to you by the Church Planter Magazine, which is available in the iTunes newsstand or online via churchplantermagazine.com.